All right, so the last thing that we're going to do to pipe off the cake and get cold to put on the cake at a later time when they're cold is the buttercream roses. Everything else we can pipe right on the cake. I'm going to be doing some holly and some little berries, but those can be piped right on the wreath. So the last thing we're working on is the rose. Roses aren't easy. I'm going to tell you right now, they're not easy. So I've got my rose nail with a little bit of buttercream and my parchment paper. And, oh, I'm almost scared to show you. Okay, so I have my piping bag with my red. Oh, I was gonna tell you the colors I used too. So this red was created using red, obviously, a little bit of purple and a lot of pink, because the purple mutes the red, and I did want a little bit deeper of a red that was a little bit more muted, but the pink kind of wakes it up. So that will be on the color guide. And the green that I made, this green, I used leaf green, which is just a straight green, and I put blue and some brown. The brown muted it, and the blue kind of made it look more of an evergreen color instead of a yellow base. It's more of a blue base, and the brown was just brown. Okay, so I'm ready. So again, just like the pine cone, the tip has a taller end and a shorter end. The shorter end is pinched, and the taller end is more open. The only difference is it doesn't have that curve or the smiley face. So we're gonna build a base a little differently than we did with the pine cone. We're gonna build this base like a cone. And so I'm holding the longer end of the tip that's wider down, and I'm holding it on a 45-degree angle in, because I want that sort of teepee or tent shape like a cone. So I'm going to position on a 45-degree angle, which I mean the tip is on a 45-degree angle in, and I'm going to squeeze. My tip is touching the I was going to say turntable, the rose nail, and I'm turning. So I created sort of like a part of the cone. So that's the base. I'm going to do that one more time, only above. So my tip is touching that base, and I'm going to turn and pipe. You just want a nice solid base, lots of buttercream, so that when we pipe this rose, it doesn't tip over. And the last row, get my paper towel here, clean your tip. Always remember to clean your tip. The paper towel won't look pretty, but your cake will. The last one, still on a 45, and I'm going to do just a tight little spin, and that's my rose center, okay? If you find this to be difficult, you can have another bag with a tip 12, which is a round tip, and you can just squeeze like a Hershey Kiss sort of a shape. But for me, I'm old school. This is how you do a rose. So when you look at, or if you were to take a rose, a real rose, and cut it in half, you would see, I'm gonna just rest that down for a sec, you would see that the petals in the center are very straight up and down. And as you get to the outside of the rose, they start to open this way, okay? So our tip in the center of our rose, we want straight up and down. As we pipe this rose and it opens up, we're gonna start straight up and down. And then as we pipe, we're going to turn our hand, which is turning the tip more open. So we did our cone with a 45-degree angle in, and as we pipe out, our angle is going to come out to a 45-degree angle this way, okay? Practice. Practice. So the center of my rose, my tip is straight up and down. I'm going to squeeze, and I'm going to lift up and come down. And I'm doing this slow so that you can see what I'm doing, and my rose won't look as good as a rose that I do fast, okay? Piping, sometimes when you go too slow, your hand is a little jerky, but I'm gonna try and do my best. So there's one petal. Then I'm gonna overlap the last petal, come around, pipe another petal, overlap, come around, pipe another petal. So there's the center of my rose. Now I'm gonna do my second row. So my tip was straight up and down for the first. Now I'm gonna tip it like about 20 degrees out. And I did 3 petals. Now I'm gonna do probably 5. And I'm not a big fan of counting. If I do 4 and it looks nice, I'll stop. If I do 5 and feel like I need another petal, I do 6. I don't count. But the 3, 5, and 7 is just a good rule to follow. So that's my second row. I did 5 petals. Now I'm going to open up that angle even more. Now I'm on a 45, and I'm gonna tuck this tip of this tip right underneath the last petals, and I'm going to pipe probably around 7 petals. 5, 6, 7. And there we have a rose. So I'm going to gently pull this off, place it on my board in preparation to get it in the fridge. My hands are messy. The cleaner your workspace and the cleaner you work, the cleaner your cake is going to end up being. So, wipe up as you go. Oops. I'm going to do one more rose, and then I'll make a bunch more, put everything in the fridge. We'll come back and put it on the cake. So again, I'm going to pipe that base, the second layer of my base, and then the very center of my rose to create that cone or the teepee. Piping with my tip straight up and down, 3 petals, opening it up to a 20-degree angle, doing about 5, cleaning off my tip, angling down to about 45, tucking right underneath, and doing about 7. I snuck in an 8th one on that one just because I thought it needed it. Gently sliding it off, placing it on my board. Should I do one more?
Sure, do one.
Because this is the hardest, right?
Yeah, do another fast one.
Okay. So I'm going to do one more just because the roses are the hardest thing to do. A little bit of buttercream. Get my parchment on there. So again, squeezing my 3 rows to create my cone, cleaning my tip. 3 petals. This one, maybe I'll make a smaller one. Maybe I'll only go up to 5 petals here. You can do a small one. So if I do a small rose or a bud or a full-blown rose, I keep the same size tip on my bag. Speaking of tips, this one was a 104, okay? So I don't go down to a 103 or a 102 because I'm making a smaller rose or a bud. I still stick with the same size because whether you have a bud or a full-blown rose, the petals are all the same size, just one's a little tighter, okay? I'm gonna continue and make a bunch more of these for my cake and put them in the fridge, and we'll come back when everything's nice and cold and we'll finish off our cake.